If you're on Social Security or ever plan to be, you need to settle in because this is going to be your new commissioner of the Social Security Administration. His name is Frank Bisignano. Now, of course, because Trump picked him, you know he's a wealthy businessman with no qualifications for the job that he's being given. In fact, he's been rated at his time as a CEO as consistently one of the highest paid CEOs in the country. Okay. While doing that, he's also run his company into the ground. So the companies that he has worked for, First Data and Fiserv, they have had to close hundreds of locations, resulting in the loss of thousands of jobs. And the employees who were working remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic said that they were in particular targeted by him. But most importantly, he's a subservient loyalist to Donald Trump, as one would expect. He donated over $120,000 to his campaign in 2019. So yeah, the guy who is stripping his companies bare and losing jobs, that's the guy who's going to be in charge of Social Security.
Donald Trump just proposed a $1.6 trillion cut to Social Security and Medicare. In between talk of the late, great Hannibal Lecter, Trump snuck in brand new policy that would actually cut Social Security benefits by 25% for the poorest seniors while giving the wealthiest retirees a 46% tax cut.
1 out of every 4 senior citizens in America are trying to live on an income of less than $15,000 a year. Think about that. While over half of our nation's seniors are trying to survive on an income of less than $30,000 a year.
So not only would eliminating this tax do nothing for the poorest seniors, but it would also deplete the Social Security and Medicare benefit funds that they rely on to get by, all while giving the wealthiest seniors who do pay taxes on Social Security a huge break.
Republicans have said they want to cut Social Security and Medicare. How does not every American in the country know that fact?
So entitlement reform is a must for us to not become Greece.
They want to cut Social Security. Now, they get away with that stuff because a lot of people don't know what they are talking about.
Democrats are pointing to your own documents to tell Americans that you are preparing to cut entitlements. The 4 top contenders for the House budget chairman, if Republicans win in November, all 4 of them told Bloomberg last week that they plan to use this debt crisis hostage technique to get things like Social Security and Medicare eligibility changes.
When so many seniors are struggling right now, how in God's name are you talking about cutting Social Security when we should expand it?
When asked to get specific, many of them invariably mention the need to cut spending on these retirement programs like Social Security and sometimes Medicare.
I think their agenda does not reflect more than 15 or 20% of the American people.
Let's put up a list of some of the prominent Republicans floating this. There's Blake Masters, a Senate nominee in Arizona who recently made waves by calling for privatization of Social Security.
Entitlements are going to consume the budget.
There's Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin facing re-election, who's called for shifting Social Security from a mandatory program to a discretionary program.
We ought to turn everything into discretionary spending so it's all evaluated so that we can fix problems or fix programs that are broken, that are going to be going bankrupt.
What does that mean? It means Congress would have to reauthorize it every year or the funding would go away. There is Rick Scott, who several months ago proposed a plan that would put all federal laws on the chopping block every 5 years unless Congress passes a law to continue them. Those programs would include Social Security.
An 11-point plan to rescue America. All federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. That would raise taxes on half of Americans and potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Sounds like cutting Medicare and Social Security.
Well, it's certainly putting it up for grabs.
At a time when tens of millions of seniors and people with disabilities cannot afford the high cost of dental care, eyeglasses, and hearing aids, the Republicans want to make massive cuts to Medicaid.
Well, John, that's, of course, the Democrat talking point. It's a
No, it's in the plan. It's in the plan.
But here's this thing about reality for a second. First off, let's talk about Medicare.
But Senator, hang on.
John.
It's not a Democratic talking point. It's in the plan.
This is all a scam. I mean, we got people that's getting ready to retire that's going to try to live off $2,000 to $3,000. Impossible. We are in huge trouble. In this body, we had better start figuring that out because we're going to have a run on this city here soon, and there's going to be about 150 million people coming up here saying, where's our damn money that we paid in? I could have put my Social Security money 40 years in tax in the market and probably be worth 8 to 10 million today.
What we've seen repeatedly amongst my extreme MAGA Republican colleagues is that they say one thing to the American people before the election and then do something different after the election. The House Republicans said they were going to protect Social Security and Medicare, and so did their presidential nominee. And now we learn after the election that House Republicans are planning to try to cut Medicare and Social Security and end it as we know it. House Republicans said before the election that they were focused on improving the quality of life of working class Americans. But after the election, they're focused on tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off.
The Republican health care plan passed out of the House already included $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. On top of that, the Trump budget would cut an additional $616 billion over 10 years, all but gutting the program.
Social Security has nothing to do with the deficit. Social Security is totally funded by the payroll tax levied on employer and employee. If you reduce the outgo of Social Security, that money would not go into the general fund to reduce a deficit. It would go into the Social Security Trust Fund. So Social Security has nothing to do with balancing a budget or erasing or lowering the deficit.